These are the kids my family mentors through the Youth Guidance Center in my hometown of Vero Beach, Florida. Even though I'm in college now, I still get to Skype them and recently had a conversation with them about their educational experiences. 5 years ago, their family came to the United States from Haiti. None of them spoke English. Having met them years later, they seem to have adjusted well to life in the U.S. and within the educational system, although they still face hardships and challenges. The eldest, Michelle, was the most aware of these cultural divides and the challenges that they faced, and talked about the assimilation process. Their youngest brother, James, is in the third grade. Of all of his siblings, I think that he struggles the most. He is very curious and active and loves running, singing, and especially playing in the pool. His favorite class is PE, where he can choose activities to do and run as much as he wants. For him, school is not fun and can be frustrating. He has learning disabilities and extreme difficulty with reading, which could be a result of his transition from Haiti to America at such a young age. He is often pulled out of class and away from other students to work on reading. Lori Olson's Made in America highlights the life of Alejandro, a Mexican-American student whose story in many ways seems to parallel James's own experiences. Like James, Alejandro too not only suffers from the difficulty of learning in a second language, but also has trouble with auditory and visual learning. Both of these boys not only struggle to master a foreign language, but must also overcome the obstacles of learning difficulties in order to succeed. When I asked James about the subjects he is taught at school, he told me he feels confused. Earlier, he had said school was good and fun, but when I asked him about curriculum content, he told me he doesn't understand, and that at school they talk about things that he is not used to dealing with. In addition, the curricula do not spark his attention or accommodate his skills. Although he loves to sing, his least favorite class is music, where he is not allowed to sing and has gotten in trouble for it in the past. When I asked him about the differences between what he is allowed to do at home and at school, he told me of his frustrations that play is restricted at school. He says it makes him mad. Because James is so active and loves to be outside, it is hard for him to be confined to a chair for 6 hours a day at school. This often gets him into trouble, and he is regularly reprimanded or disciplined for inattention. James's older sister Layla is 12 years old and is in the 6th grade. She is always excited to see me and loves to talk about what is going on in her life or mine. Like her brother James, she loves to run and joined the track team this year. Last week, she ran her first 5K race and won in her age group. Her greatest struggle in school is with one of her teachers, Mrs. X, whom she feels treats her differently because of her background. She describes to me the unfair treatment that all the students face. They are given no chances and often sent straight outside for any offense. Layla tells me that she in particular feels singled out by Mrs. X, who once sent her to detention for acting silly during class. There seems to be a black and white, good and bad mindset in her classroom that does not accommodate or make room for error. Even her teaching style that Layla describes to me does not appear to be particularly effective, at least not in Layla's eyes. She told me that Mrs. X does not like her as a student and likes to give her busy work without much explanation or help. When I asked Layla about any differences between Haiti and the U.S. in relation to her schooling experience, her focus was on academic content. I was surprised to learn that Haitian schooling is very rigorous and demanding. Layla told me that 6th grade level academics here were taught in the 4th grade in Haiti. Layla still had trouble with English, especially longer words that she says are hard to pronounce. The FCAT is particularly hard because if she doesn't know a word, she can't ask for help. This is why she says she never does well on the FCAT, and her sister Michelle agrees. For Michelle, it is harder than what they teach in class because she feels the FCAT questions make her have to think more. In her reading class, she tells me that the questions are more about facts and finding the answer in the article or book she reads. However, the FCAT asks her what she thinks, and she has to critically analyze material. Michelle was able to elaborate more for me on the transition into the United States schools. She is in the 9th grade and is quiet and shy, but also very observant and articulate. She was 10 years old when her family arrived to the United States. The transition for her was a hard one. The cultural difference, she told me, was very big. Haitians greet each other by kissing cheeks and hugging, and she told me that here people are not so friendly. She faced a lot of bullying due to her lack of ability to speak or understand English. As she put it, whites didn't mind her, but it was the black American students that picked on her the most. She was scared to walk through the hallway and told me that she sometimes still feels nervous. In one incident, somebody blamed her for stealing something that she didn't take, but because Layla was unable to speak English, she was blamed for something that she did not do. For her, learning was exhausting. She was able to understand math, but science and reading were almost incomprehensible at first. Although she said that the teachers were understanding, she told me that she knows her grades would have been better if she had been able to understand more English. Once she was able to speak English, she was able to assimilate into the student body, although her experience left her with a very segregated and divided view of her school. Her friends, she told me, were all Hispanic and Haitian. When I asked if other people ever stepped out of their groups to talk or interact with others, she emphatically said no, but then reconsidered it. Maybe, but rarely. You have to be the right type of person. It's all about respect. I think that the grouping at her school made a huge impact on her educational experience. When I finished talking to her, I asked if she had anything else she wanted to stay. She thought for a second and said, uniforms. We then had a discussion about identity and how uniforms could serve as an equalizer and reduce the stress of dressing to impress. How you dress is one way of displaying identity and belonging. Most people within a group dress similarly, and this is yet another layer that serves to perpetuate division. I feel lucky to be able to be a part of these children's lives. They are able to show such compassion and kindness despite the adversity and challenges that they have faced in their lives, and I'm excited to see what they will accomplish.